cut it was. It was obvious the fish had been digging right underneath the bank. Now it was all clay lined, and to get that lead out, literally I had to dig and dig and dig, and eventually found the swivel and pulled the lead out, and it was covered in clay. Now I know that carp like clay, and especially you can see by the way they dug this bank out, they really liked it over there. So what I'd done, I got a clod of this clay and moulded it all round the lead. It was dripping with clay, all slimy, and then I lowered it onto the spot. So something a little bit different, you know, and all three of my bites have come off of that same spot doing exactly that. So I've now done it with both, you know, both rods across there have got the old clay clod hanging on the lead. It's interesting with this clay, because it's something I was talking to my friend about, Dave, only a couple of weeks ago. Now, he done a little bit of research and looked it up on the internet. It was a koi website, and basically he found that, I mean, this one koi place, they actually sell clay and people put it in their ponds, and apparently they actually absorb the minerals and salts into their skin. You know, so sometimes when you see carp on, especially on the big gravel pits and where there's a lot more clay present, you see them, they're covered in clay, all up their flanks. So I've seen them with clods of it all over their head, hardly look, you know, little beady eye looking through it, you know, unbelievable. Now, they're like pigs really, you know, they like to roll in it, you know, and they like cover themselves in it, but I think there's a little bit more to it. You know, they absorb it through their skin, those minerals and stuff. So, and at this time of the year, this is when they really need to build up their immune system. So maybe there's a little bit more to it than we think. But, you know, like I say, they are like pigs as well, and they like rolling in mud and anything like that. You know, it's one of those things. I think sometimes it's like they're putting on their war paint, you know, and they're showing off to each other. I've got more clay on me than you have, you know what I mean? But whatever, it's something it's worth thinking about. Well, it was looking good yesterday evening. There was plenty of fish down this end of the lake. I think really this is where I should have spent all of the nights this week. You know, it's like time's running out so fast. But I caught another one, early hours of the morning, on exactly the same spot where I've had the last two bites as well. And it's not the biggest one, but it's definitely the prettiest one. It's a mirror of 23 pound 3 ounces. It's funny, I saw this one in the photo album when Dave was showing me it, and I thought it was one of the crackers, one of the ones I'd like to catch. So I'm well pleased. Hold on. Look at that for a lovely carp. God, it's a lively one. Gonna let me pick you up. There you go, how's that? There really are some nice looking fish in this lake. Half a dozen scaly fish like this. Lovely floppy tail on him. Bit like Blackeye's tail, smaller one. Spin around. Corker, isn't it? There we go. Lovely carp. Right, I think we'll get her back. Well, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the trip. Kit's all loaded on the barrow, I'm pretty much ready to go. I've got 2 rods still fishing, but I'll be reeling those in shortly as well. I've got to hit the roads, long drive home, want to make it before the traffic. But no worries, Dave Air's been kind enough to invite us back. I can still come back and have a couple of nights each week, so you know, you never know, we might catch Blackeye yet. I've learnt so much this trip, I really have. You know, it's hard to learn the water in such a short space of time. Well, 5 days is a long trip, but to be expected to catch the big one in that space of time, you know, it's a tall order. But I have learnt a lot. I've seen Blackeye loads, I've seen it head and shoulder, I've seen it feeding, particularly the last 24 hours, you know, since the weather's cooled off. I've seen quite a few areas it's been fizzing up on. One end of the lake seems totally different to the other ends. The narrower end of the lake, I didn't have as many problems with the tench, you know. I'd get lots of fizzing and stuff, but really the baits were still intact, at least I was still fishing. Up this end of the lake, whenever I used the boilies, I was having some real problems, and this is the end of the lake where the carp seem to do most of the feeding, so it was quite unfortunate. In the end, I had to fish with tiger nuts, and although a good bait, tiger nuts, when you look at Blackeye's past captures, you know, you can go back on a dozen or more captures and it's all boilies. It obviously likes the boilie. So I'm not really sure that tiger nuts are the way forward for that fish. So I've got a lot spinning around in my head at the moment, loads of different thoughts. I can't wait to get home and have a bit of a play around with all my tackle. And I think that's probably when I'm going to catch up with you next. I'm going to get my own camera out and I'm going to do a little bit of a diary piece. So it's not happened this trip, but don't worry, I'll be back. Right, I've been home now for 24 hours or so. This wasn't originally part of the plan, but I've decided to set my own camera up because there's been so many thoughts going around in my head about baits, rigs, different spots where to try and catch old Blackeye. So I decided I'd try and capture a little bit of it on film. Now, I had a good rummage around in the freezer earlier on, and I found exactly what I was after, some bigger baits. It's the same bait as what I was using, and only a little bit bigger. I was using 16mm dynamite fresh fish, and this time around I found some 18mm, but the difference is these ones, I had these made a little bit harder, so these should hopefully resist the attentions of those small tench, which there seems to be an awful lot of, all around sort of half a pound size. I was getting a lot of aborted takes, dropped runs and what have you, and reeling in with whittled down baits, and occasionally reeling in with no bait on at all, so that wasn't at all good. I did catch on the tiger nuts, you know, and I'm pretty sure old Blackeye will eat a tiger nut, but I don't know, when you go back on all his past captures he does seem to like a boilie, and I have to admit I'd rather be using boilies for him, so I'm quite happy with those, the 18mm fresh fish. So that's the bait sorted anyway. It's hard to know how many to take. I should probably take along. Next trip I'm going to go for 3 nights. I'll take 3 kilos. But to be honest, they've got a freezer there on site, so it's not as though it'll be going to waste anyway. That'll do. Now, rather than using the fresh fish bait just on its own, it's plenty attractive enough on its own, but I like to give them a real boost. And what I use is green lit mussel powder. This is a real high quality one. Nice enough to have on toast in the morning, let me tell you. And this one is coarse sea salt. Most salts are real good, you know, a lot of people I know have been using the rock salt, particularly with their maize and particles, but you know, in boilies I like to use it as a glug, and I'll show you how I do it. It's an old milkshake bottle, and very nice it was too, still drinking it now. And into this milkshake bottle I'm just going to whack a couple of tablespoons of green lit mussel powder. To be honest with you, you can't go over the top of this stuff. It's just pretty expensive, so that's more than enough of that. Then I get the salt. I want a whole one of those.